There it is, 6:05. Let's get started. Uh, Welcome to my 2019 webinar as part of the Navionics company. We are doing these very informative educational webinars to help you catch more fish. The topic tonight is going to be deep water finesse fishing. Going to show you how to find spots. The number one question I get is, what does a bass look like on a fish finder? Going to show you that and try to get to as many questions as possible. My name is Ricky Shabazz. I'm a marine specialist with Navionics. A little bit about me. I'm coming to you from the West Coast. I'm both a tournament angler and outdoor writer located in Southern California. My home lake is Diamond Valley. We regularly catch fish at Diamond Valley in 40 to 60 feet of water. My favorite lakes, though, are up Northern California, California Delta, Clear Lake, Shasta, where I'll be heading over the weekend. Uh, some of the circuits I fish there, some of the organizations that I write for. I do seminars all over the country. Visit Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's, a lot of big box stores. Um, you see my sponsors there. Glad to have some partnerships with some great companies, Anglers Marine, Rangers Boats, so on and so forth. There's a lot of great products out there, folks. This is not about necessarily promoting products, more than answering your questions, showing you how to catch fish out of deep water. If I do not get to your question, please shoot me an email at rshabazz@navionics.com or visit my website, www.teamblingfishing.com. You can like me on all the social media platforms. Facebook is probably the most common one that I use, facebook.Ricky Shabazz. So again, thank you for taking time to join the webinar. We have about 30 minutes of presentation, followed by about 30 minutes or so of questions. This is being recorded. It'll be available at navionics.com in a couple of days. Everyone is muted. You should see a prompt on your screen to ask questions. I'll take questions at the end of the presentation. If you want to start them, I'll try to get to as many as possible. So here are the topics. What is deep water? Deep water is going to depend on where you are in the country, but for me, deep water is 40 to 60 feet of water. And the deepest bass that I've ever caught was out of 70 feet, but I routinely catch fish out of 50 and 60 feet of water. And we do so looking at these locations, channel swings, humps, points. I'm going to show you how to find these areas using a function on the Navionics app called fishing ranges. It's used as coloring. It really takes the guesswork out of it, to be completely honest with you. I'm going to show you what fish look like down in that deep water, talk about some techniques, and then get to questions. Again, if you have any questions, you're going to click on the chat or question function, or you can email me right there. My email will be at the end of the presentation. So again, out west, we routinely catch fish out of 40 to 60 feet of water. This requires reading maps and understanding contour lines. Also requires good electronics. Now, when I say good, you don't have to go spend $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 on electronics. Certainly, if you do, it'll be easier. But you can catch these fish with any good electronic. You're looking for bait. You're looking for channel swings. And at the end of the day, there is no substitute for seat time. So here's a screenshot that I actually just took on Sunday when I was at New Melones, a lake in Northern California. You can see this spot is 49.6 feet. The water temperature is 59 degrees. It's actually a hump. You can see down in the bottom. Hopefully you should be able to see my mouse there. And these are spotted bass, a school of spotted bass. So these are bass. This is what they look like on this traditional 2D sonar. This is what they look like on the down scan with fish reveal. This is Lowrance. That's what I use. Certainly, there are a lot of good electronics out there, Garmin, Humminbird. The West Coast pretty much is dominated by Lowrance. You do see Humminbirds, but folks, there are a lot of great brands out there. This is what I use. I've only ever used a Lowrance. Certainly, I know what a Humminbird, Raymarine, Garmin looks like, but this is what the fish look like. Hopefully, you should be able to. Let me see if I can use the drawing tool there. Okay, the pointer is working good. So you see these are fish on the break going up to the hump. This is fish going down the hump. This is the actual channel right there. And this is me making a live map using SonarChart's Live, which is an overlay function on the Lowrance. You can pretty much do this with any unit now. So this is what we call fishing deep. Right here are some screenshots of my Navionics app, and I'm going to talk a lot about syncing the Navionics app with my electronics, which you can do with the higher end electronics. You can connect via the Wi-Fi and ultimately get off the bank and start studying your maps. And what you see here on the right is what is called fishing ranges on SonarChart. So I can pick a different color range. So you can see, I don't know, you call that fuchsia or pink from 16 to 29. Deep is what I've labeled this from 51 to 64. And you can look right here, it changes the map so you can start finding those high percentage spots. There's a hump, there's a point, there's a cut, another point, islands. And so these are spots as I'm driving around, I'm going to go look at as high percentage and see if I mark them. But essentially this requires map reading, looking for humps, points, and channel swings. This is a spot that I actually just found this weekend at a brand new lake. I went to New Melones in Northern California on Sunday, had never fished the lake before, used that fishing ranges to really take the guesswork out of it. So I'm driving down the lake, looking at my phone app on my Navionics, looking at my Lowrance HDS 16, and I've got this shading picked out so that it shows me different ranges. So in this case, what you see, and I'm going to show a couple of different shots of this. Okay, where is my mouse? There we go. So this is a hump. The top of it is 50 feet. It's surrounded by very deep water, right? This is what I would consider to be a high percentage spot. When I pull out, you're going to see there's actually a creek channel that bends around this. And on the Navionics app, it actually shows you this is a no-brainer. This is a fish, which usually means that's a spot I'm going to try. This is that same spot backed out. There you go, New Melones Lake. First time fishing there. This is the creek channel that bends around this hump. Riverbed, Stanislaus a river. So this is the main river channel and a hump that comes out to 50 feet of water. And you see how that's highlighted. That's a spot I'm going to go check because it's going to stand out. And this is what it looked like. 49 feet of water is what it topped out at. And that is probably a school of 40 to 50 spotted bass on the hump. You see the river channel there. See the river channel there. That's the top of the hump. And you see me doing laps. And as I'm driving over this spot, I'm making a live map because no map is accurate 100%. But when you make a live map, you actually get the most up-to-date data, the freshest data on the spot. And so that new map is going to stay both in my fish finder and on my phone app so that I have a most current up-to-date version of the lake. And so the number one way that I find spots like this in deeper water is live mapping or SonarChart's Live. This is me and my Ranger boat using my Lowrance HDS 16 connected to my iPhone app, and it's just connected via Wi-Fi. It's plug and play. Once you connect them the first time, and it's just like connected to any other Wi-Fi. If you were in a museum, a library, your house, you go into the Wi-Fi of your phone. You turn the Wi-Fi on your Lowrance, and I know for a fact Humminbirds do this. I know for the fact that Garmin's do this. So there are other brands. I'm talking about Lowrance, but this is transferable to other brands. The point here is I can make a live map of what I'm fishing over so that I know exactly what's underneath the water. And that map will stay on my unit, and it'll stay in my app for my phone. Now, I got a job like most of you all. And so I use this phone app to start making waypoints and finding those high percentage spots. And I can take those waypoints and I can do one of two things. I can do what's called plotter sync, where anything I do on my phone will automatically sync with the unit in my boat. Or I can simply use the crosshairs in the Navionics app to get the GPS waypoints and then plug those waypoints into my Lowrance so that I can find those spots. This is me doing this on a local lake that just reopened near my house. It's called San Vicente, and you see in the top right corner They built the dam up, and so there is no map of the lake. The only way to get a map of the lake is going out and actually doing sonar logging. So these are all the spots that I fished in the lake that now have contours so that I know what's underneath the water. And in this case, you see me in one of my older bows, my Lowrance HDS 12, synced with my iPad app, synced with my phone app, and I'm just out doing figure eights. And so when you're going to find these offshore spots, you're going to spend a lot of time idling, or you're going to spend a lot of time looking at the fishing ranges, which will show a certain depth drop or change in the water column by using different colors. I get a lot of questions about what mapping I use. There are two primary mapping cards, the Navionics Plus and the Navionics Plus Regions. The Navionics Platinum Plus and the Navionics Regions. I use the Regions West card. They're based in different regions, so I'm on the West Coast, so I use the Regions card. They got a South card, East card, North card. I don't use the Platinum Plus. The difference is, this is another question that I get, what's the difference between the cards? Pretty much the Platinum has satellite overlay and the Regions Plus card doesn't. There are other main differences, but those are the two big ones. Both of the cards are updated. When you purchase a card, you get live data for free. Now, the interesting thing is that if a guy like myself is mapping a lake like San Vicente, in order to get this map, you've got to update your chart, which if you get the chart, the first year is free. After that, it's $99 a year. However, in the phone, in the tablet, as long as you connect to Wi-Fi, you're going to always have the up-to-date version of San Vicente. So let's use this as an example. You had a guy who never updated his chart. I'm out there mapping the lake. It uploads to Navionics website. Well, the guy who's got a tablet or phone app, that lake is going to push out automatically as soon as Navionics updates it. The guy who never puts his chart in the computer and registers it is never going to have this lake. So just a quick tip. Let's get back to fishing and in high percentage spots. And so when I'm out in deeper water, I'm looking at things or for things such as a channel swing. Well, what is a channel swing? This is an example of a channel swing, which is anytime a creek channel or river channel or deep water runs into the bank or a bluff or a hump or a point. So in this case, this is a submerged culvert with a creek channel that bends. This would be better known as a fish highway. Those fish would be able to go to the bank, which is in this area, to spawn, and during the wintertime, they'd be living out in this deeper water. And so I'm going to try to find those fish that would normally live on the bank that during the wintertime are probably going to be out in this deeper water. So this would be a high percentage spot near some spawning flats. This is that same spot I showed you earlier. It was a school of spotted bass every drop, and I'm going to talk about tackle at some point, but I'm just showing you the spots right now. What does the bass look like? This is a school of 1.5 to 3 pound spotted bass down there. That's what they look like on traditional 2D sonar. This is what they look like on the down scan using an HDMI transducer on my trolling motor. And this is the mapping, right? And there you can see the different shading right there in the right corner of what the creek channel looked like. And so when you pull up on a spot, folks, and it looks like this, you're going to catch them no matter what you drop down there. The hard part is just finding the spots. So let's talk about rock piles. This is Lake Pleasant in Arizona, which has a lot of deep rock piles. You can see this rock pile is down in about 50 feet of water. You can see the jagged rocks on the 2D sonar. That is an actual fish right there. That's that same look using the down scan on my trolling motor. You can see the fish there. There's actually some timber mixed in there. What happened to there we go. Some timber mixed in there as well. And you can see we're just idling around a channel bend and find a hump. And that's what you see down there. And this is, again, another high percentage spot. There's a fish in there on that rock pile. There's some timber in there. That fish is right on that rock. There's some trees in there. And as you're driving around, you're just processing this. And with seat time, you start to know what these spots look like. Here's another high percentage spot is a deep water point. And in this case, you actually have a channel swing going into the hump. Now you say, oh, 133 feet of water. This lake was down 80 feet. So this 130 now becomes 50 feet, which brings this spot into play. Here's another example of that same spot using my Navionics app and the fishing regions and the coloring, fishing ranges. And so I colored anything in that 40 to 50 foot range, this fuchsia color, right? So as I'm driving around the lake, I'm looking for anything that comes out. Again, you see the creek bed there, see the creek bed, you see the channel swing. In this case, this is a high percentage because this point has two channel swings, or creek beds on either side of it. So this is going to be a higher percentage spot. Just took these from last weekend. This is New Melones. I caught, I don't know, 10 fish off this spot that I would have never found if I didn't have this mapping. Here's what that spot looks like. Some actual fish. I want to say this was, oops, let me go back. 53 feet of water, one fish there, two fish there. That's what the fish looks like. There's the three fish right there using the down scan. It is amazing how clear this mapping is on these units. It really takes the guesswork out of it. And this is kind of what that spot looks like using the actual mapping. At the end of the day, that's what lived there. It's about a 5.5 pounder. There's the spot, channel swing, caught that fish deep water drop shotting. This is another screenshot of that same spot. And so to kind of recap the offshore structure fishing, you need good electronics. You really need to use the free web app. If you go to Navionics website, you could actually see this mapping for free on the website. So you don't have to pay for it. Determine whether or not you need to satellite overlay. Certainly your phone and your tablets come into play. There will become a time where we won't have these fish finders. We will use our phones and our tablets using SonarCharts Live. And the interesting thing about Navionics that in my opinion is better than the other mapping, because there's other mapping out there, is that we take data from all of the fish finders to use to make our mapping. The way we set up our boats to find these fish are very important. You can see I have a Lowrance GPS puck up front at the trolling motor. The fish finders nowadays have built-in GPS, but the GPS puck will download, upload data 4 to 10 times faster than the internal GPS of the unit. So I always have an external GPS near my trolling motor, because when I put a waypoint, if I'm driving and I put a waypoint, I want that waypoint to go where the GPS puck is, so that when I get at the trolling motor, I know that all my waypoints are built around the trolling motor, not where I'm driving. Because that on a 20-foot boat, that could be a 20-foot distance between where you see the fish and where you're actually fishing. Here's another example of what a fish looks like. This is a rock pile and some trees around it, and those are two bass there. There's me putting a GPS mark there. There's what it looks like on the down scan, and you just see just very little subtle things. You begin to know what a fish looks like down there. Here's another example of New Melones, a suspended fish. There's what a suspended fish looks like out in 60 feet of water. And it can be harder to catch these suspended fish, but the one on the bottom, that's a catchable fish. You drop a bait in front of that fish, drop shot, some kind of a jig, Carolina rig, you're most likely going to catch that fish. In this case, these are spotted bass. There's another example of what a fish looks like. Look how clear that is, right? And there's some fish there. It looks like this is in the lane. Let me see. And so you see the pictures of what the fish look like. So let's talk Baits. Traditionally, when I'm fishing deep, I'm going to use light line, 6 pound, 8 pound fluorocarbon. I use Seaguard. There's a lot of quality fluorocarbons out there on the market. Anything deeper than 40 feet, I'm going to use a fluorocarbon leader to braid. I believe that the braid gives me a better hook set, gives me more sensitivity. I use Daiwa braid. There's a lot of great braid out there. I connect my braid to a uni to uni knot. I know there's a lot of different knots out there. The one I master tying is the uni to uni knot. In terms of the knot to the bait, I traditionally tie a Palomar and improved clinch knot. Uh, if I'm fishing around rock, clay, or sand, I'm going to use a tungsten weight. If I'm fishing around trees, I'm going to use a lead weight. The reason for that is, one, tungsten costs a lot of money, lead doesn't. And if I'm fishing rock, I want to be able to get a better feel for what's down there. In terms of hooks, I use a light wire hook, something like a Robo Rebarb or a Gamakatsu offset hook. 1/0 for 4-inch worms, 2/0 for 6-inch worms. Here's a traditional drop shot of what it looks like using a Palomar knot. You can also use an improved clinch knot and bring the tag in back through the eye. Very simple. You can find this information on YouTube. When I'm throwing a drop shot, I am going to fish it a couple of different ways. I'm either going to throw it out toward a place that I marked and drag it back, or I'm going to fish it vertically, dropping it, using my electronics to drop the bait right down over the top of a bass. But this gives you a good diagram of how you would fish a drop shot. Baits, traditionally people will use hand poured worms, 4-inch, 6-inch worms, but I've expanded, catch a lot of fish on a baby brush hog on a drop shot. Catch a ton of fish on shad pattern type worms. These are some of the baits. Generally speaking, when it's light outside, I use light colors. When it's dark outside, I use dark colors. The number one color I use is some kind of green pumpkin candy, natural colors, a shad color, or probably the number one drop shot worm is a Morning Dawn robo worm, a Morning Dawn missile bait type of worm. There are really 4 ways that we fish a drop shot. We talked about the vertical drop. You see a fish, you drop it on his head, 45 to 60 feet. Normally, when I'm fishing vertically, I'll use a heavier weight so that bait can get down there very quickly. And I will go up to a 1/2 ounce, but I would say mostly we're using a 1/4 ounce. Casting, you do what's called a shake on slack line. You cast it out there and you shake it on slack line. You dead stick it or you drag it. Get a lot of questions about the leader size. If the fish are on the bottom, then I'll use as small as 6 inches and I'll go all the way up to 16 inches. Depends on how I'm metering the fish down there. Are they close to the bottom? Are they suspended? If there is cover down there, then I will primarily Texas rig my drop shot. If it is a super tough bite, or if I'm fishing for spotted bass, I will wacky style my drop shot. The tackle that I use is primarily Daiwa. Again, there's a lot of great tackle on the market. I love the Daiwa Steez drop shot rod. Let me be honest with you. This is a $400 or $500 rod. Do you need a $400 or $500 rod? Absolutely not. Will putting a $400 or $500 rod in your hand in 50 to 60 feet of water change your life? Absolutely. You'll be able to see and feel, you'll be able to feel what is down there on a more expensive rod. I use a Daiwa ballistic spinning reel, either 2,500 or 3,000. And again, we're either using 6 pound or 8 pound fluorocarbon. I use Seaguard. There's a lot of good fluorocarbon on the market. That is pretty much the overview. I'll get to the questions now. If folks have questions, let me see if I can open up my question deal. Up here. Oh, that didn't work. Questions. Oh, wow. No image. If you are doing a PowerPoint presentation, there is nothing showing on the cover page. Waiting to view screen. Okay. Let me add, and I'm sorry I missed this in the presentation. Did you all not see? Did you all not see? You can't see me, but you should be able to see the PowerPoint slides. You didn't see the PowerPoint slides. Okay, let me go back real quick and see what is going on because I shared. No one can see your screen. Click on. Wow. Of course, I had that clicked beforehand. I'm sorry, guys. Let me go back and show you some of these shots. Can you see the screen? Got it now. Okay, of course I pushed that in the beginning. Let me go back and show you some of these shots, and I apologize for that. Okay, so here's what a bass looks like. You can see it now? Can everybody see that? Let me open this up. I should have done this before, and I apologize because it on my end it said that I was sharing it. Okay, you can see it now. Okay, why is it doing that? Okay, there we go. So this is New Melones Lake. This is a hump. Um, This is these are spotted bass down in about 49 feet of water using the traditional downscan on the left, and on the right, excuse me, on the left, this is traditional 2D sonar. On the right is the downscan, and this is showing the Navionics mapping of finding this hump out in 49 feet of water. Um, and what you see here on the bottom right on the mapping, which is kind of a peachy color, is the actual river channel. Can you all can see that now? Let's see. Okay, perfect. And so this is, you can see with the fish reveal in the Lowrance, it makes it very easy to see those spotted bass down here. Um, Let me show you all a couple of other, and guys, thanks for bearing with me. I apologize. On my end, it said that it was showing. Obviously, it wasn't. This is me connecting my phone app to my HDS 16 via the Wi-Fi. But let's get to some pictures of some fish. So again, this was some spotted bass. This is what a school of spotted bass looks like on the fish finder. Um, 2D scan on the right, down scan. This is a hump, that same hump with the creek channel to the right. Doing some sonar logging, making a live map. But more importantly, when you pull up to a spot and it looks like this, it doesn't matter what you dropped down there. This is a school of bass they're going to bite. And that's what the spotted bass in New Melones had never been to the lake. Let's go back again, show you all a couple more photos. And again, I apologize. Let's see. This is what it looks like using the phone app, how I found that spot using, let me go back to the fishing ranges. Okay, so this is fishing ranges that you find on the Navionics app that allows you to use different coloring. You guys should see that now, right? So I can make anything 51 to 64 feet this color. So when I go to a lake, it'll show up the things that are off the bank. So fast forward to this weekend, I pulled up on this spot that is a no-brainer, right? So it's a hump, comes up to 50 feet, surrounded by over 100 feet of water. Takes the guesswork out of it. The next slide is what it looked like on my actual fish finder. This is that same spot on my fish finder. You can see the red markings on the down scan is the Lowrance fish reveal. That's how you know that they're fish. Of course, you don't know that they're bass, but normally in lakes they're going to be bass. Could be white bass, could be anything. But you can see that there's a school of fish down there. There's a 2D sonar on the left. On the right is the down scan. And again, I apologize that you all didn't get to see these pictures. Let me go through a couple of other screenshots. This is me at San Vicente. I talked about this briefly, making a live map of San Vicente because it wasn't. Show the channel swing. This is the absolutely. This is the channel swing slide. Let me get out of here. So this is the same channel swing in an actual picture, but this is what the channel swing looks like. There's a hump, there's the channel swing, there are the fish and what they look like on the fish finder, right? So there are multiple fish on this spot. Are you all seeing my mouse? Can you guys see my mouse? Yes, okay, good. So there's one fish, there's two fish, there's three fish. This is on the down scan. It's going to be easier to see the fish on the down scan than the 2D sonar, but this is what those same fish look like on the 2D sonar. Let me see, what else did I show you all that. All right, let me go back one more time. Okay, this is an underwater point that I would have never found if I didn't use the fishing ranges, right? You can see that I set the fishing ranges at 40 to 50 feet, and anything that sticks out into the lake that is 40 to 50 feet is going to show up here, and you're just going to get investigated. So you see right here, this is my boat driving to the point. Here's a channel swing. In this case, there are two creeks on the other side of this point, right? So this point comes into the middle of the lake. There is a channel swing here, or a creek bed there, and a creek bed there. Do you down scan adjustments? Bill, I'm not someone who really messes with my electronics. You spend $2 or $3 grand on electronic, it really is plug and play. Some guys will adjust the ranges and all of that. The only thing I really do with my electronics is connect the Wi-Fi to my Navionics app in my phone, to the Wi-Fi in my unit, so that I can do SonarChart live, meaning live mapping, and so that I can do sonar sync, meaning if I'm sitting on my, please show how to do the color mapping on the phone. This is actually it. Let me see, did I do a screenshot of how to do it? Let me pass, and bear with me because I'm having to go out of order now. Here it is. So Eddie, this is actually screenshots from my cell phone. Oops. So what I've done is I brought up the Navionics app. This is what it looks like right here for this particular lake. You click on menu. Once you click on menu, you click on map options. And once you click on map option, this comes up. Does fish reveal mostly replace traditional 2D sonar? You know, the interesting thing about that, Tim, is that when I'm driving the boat at a high rate of speed, it's easier for the 2D sonar to keep bottom contact than the down scan. So I use 2D sonar when I'm driving the boat, let's see, above 10 miles an hour, because you'll lose the structure scan at that speed. Once I slow down and I'm idling, then I put my fish finder on this screen right here. I'll have the 2D in the top left, I'll have the down scan in the right, and I will have the mapping at the bottom. And so that's how I find a spot once I'm idling. But when I am running at a high rate of speed, I'm going to have 2D and mapping, because you will lose the down scan at a high rate of speed. Being respectful of your time, what other questions did you all have now that I realize you didn't see many of the screens? And I apologize that I did not share the screen. On my end, show that it was shared. Other questions? Drop shot setup, Mario, let's go back to that. We talked about line, again, 6 to 8 pound fluorocarbon. The lighter line is when there's nothing to get broke off. I always, when I'm fishing that deep, will use a fluoro 2 top shot. In terms of knot, Palomar improved clinch. In terms of weights, lead or tungsten. I use Daiwa equipment, but that doesn't mean you have to. Here are some of the baits that I use. Brush hog, you've got a robo worm, you've got a Yamamoto Cinco, you've got some missile baits in there. These are the baits that we use. There's a lot of great equipment out there. I use Daiwa, but there are other great equipment out there. In terms of the 4 types of ways, we talked about the vertical drop, we talked about the casting, we talked about the leader size, and we talked about Texas versus wacky. Ron, can you do the depth shading on the head unit, or do you need to sync the app? Right now, Ron, you cannot do the depth shading on any unit except for your phone or tablet. And so that's why when I'm out in the water and I'm looking for spots like that, I'm normally set up like this, where you see to the right, where I've got my iPad or my iPhone connected to my unit, or more importantly, I'm usually set up nowadays like this, excuse me, which is my iPhone 10 connected to my Lowrance HDS 16. And I do the depth shading on the phone, which then begins to look like this. The day is coming where you're going to be able to do the depth shading on your unit, but it's not available right now. When fishing a hump or ledge, are you uphill or downhill? Dave, I do both. If I pull up on a spot and it looks like this, I'm going to go vertical. I'm just going to drop my bait straight down. In this case, I was just dropping my bait straight down. I was catching these fish. So when you're on a school of fish like this, or you on a fish that looks like this, if you're on a fish that looks like this, these kind of spots where there are that many fish on a spot, I'm going to drop my bait vertically first to see if I can catch those fish. If they don't bite, then I will back off and throw at the point. And if they don't get bit that way, then I will put the boat right on the point and throw in the deep water. And so you want to work whatever angles you can. When looking for pre-spawn bass, are you looking for channel swings? I am looking at all the things we talked about. I am looking for rock piles. I'm looking for timber. What I am looking for is some kind of structure near deep water. So in this case, let's go back to the rock pile, right? This rock pile is just out in deep water, 50 some odd feet of water. You can see the water temperature is 55. This is wintertime fishing, folks. And so what I'm doing is just idling around trying to find structure, some kind of structure. On a place like Lake Comanche, where do you start fishing for main lake? What I would do is I would start looking for offshore structure, which would be things like this, a long point that goes into the lake. I'm going to look for a hump with the channel swing. I'm going to look for all of these kind of things. When you fish Havasu, did you use your graph, give you a line to run to the river? Yes. I don't have any screenshots of Lake Havasu, but there's a sandbar, Marvin, to get into the river. And absolutely, I use my graph to run the channel to get into the river, so I didn't get stuck on the sandbar. Let's see if there are other questions down there. Again, thank you all for being patient. I do apologize that I wasn't sharing the screen. Let's see. Other questions? Let's see. I don't know why it's going up so far. Any other questions you all have? What does Navionics have over CMAP, Genesis, or social maps? Dennis, I would say right now, depending on where you are in the country, Navionics is the company who invented folks being able to see these electronic maps. And so we've got about a 20-year start over CMAP Genesis. We have 1-foot contours. We get all of the data from every fish finder, Ray Marine, Lowrance, Humminbird, and we put that information out And more importantly, our app is one of the, if not the #1 downloaded app in the App Store for fishing. And so this app worked when I was in the Dominican Republic. It worked when I was in Brazil. This app works all over the world. It does mapping both for lake fishing, river fishing, skiing, backpacking, and it allows you to get mapping without using cellular data. It uses satellites. I'm not sure that there's any other company out there that does that. Will CMAP Genesis catch up to Navionics? Absolutely. That's what drives technology, is that it's constantly changing. Can you answer that? I'm not sure, Rodney, if I understand your question. Okay, you talked about fish size, 1.5 to 3 pound spots earlier viewed on a down image. Can you show the slide that represents the size of the fish? Yeah, let's see. There we go, Rodney. Let's see, where did that slide go to? And again, I apologize. Thank you all for bearing with me. There it is right there. That's a small one. It's probably one of the smallest ones I caught on that. I would say that when you see that many fish on the screen, it's probably going to be 1.5 pounders. When you find a spot that looks like this is where the 3 pounders were, right? You can look at the size of the arc to see that these are larger fish. So right here is probably a 3 to 4 pounds spotted bass. Down there is probably a 2 pounder. Down there is probably a 2 pounder. And looking at this other side, right? So normally when you're looking at larger fish, they tend to not be schooled up. The smaller fish tend to be schooled up. Hopefully that answers everybody's question about that. What Navionics card do you recommend? I chatted about that. I primarily use the Regions West card. Let me go back to that slide. Right, so this is the Platinum Plus versus the Regions card. The Platinum Plus has the satellite overlay. There's some other differences, but the major difference for this conversation is that the Platinum Plus is going to be preloaded with 3D satellite imaging, whereas the Regions card is going to show you the same 1 foot contours. They both are updated daily. This is the major differences. Hopefully I can answer that question. So the coloration on contours is done on the mobile app, then Wi-Fi to unit. The color, the fishing ranges will not show up on the unit right now. That's something that's coming down the line. It doesn't exist right now except for on your either phone app or tablet app. Will Navionics let me put a depth offset in like 150 feet? Absolutely, it will. Randy, the lakes I fish out west routinely fluctuate 100 to 150 feet, and you can adjust the lake size based on that. All right, am I fishing the Cow Open at Clear Lake? Unfortunately, I'm not fishing that one. I'm fishing FLW. What is the correct app for Navionics to download? There currently is only, we just changed apps so that there is one app now. There used to be multiple apps, which you would want the boating app, but now there's just one app. Did you need cell phone service? No, the mapping runs off of either Wi-Fi or satellites. You don't need cell service. That's the benefit of the Navionics app in your phone or your tablet. What conditions are you looking for to find fish in shallower water when you deep water fish time of the year? Normally this time of year, if there are spotted bass, I mean, there's going to always be bass shallow, but what I'm looking for is schools of fish. And so I'm looking for those schools of fish in places that the bank beaters will never find. Humps, long points, channel swings. And that's really what tonight was about, is how to find spots where you can get off the bank. Let's go back to the very first slide. Where you can get off the bank and find spots like this, which is out in 49 feet of water, using these different techniques that we chatted about tonight. Well, guys, Any other questions? We've got about 10 more minutes. I want to make sure that I answer your questions. And thank you. I mean, there's still 60 people on the line. So thank you for sticking with me, not realizing I didn't share my slides. Let me go through all the slides one more time. Right. So this is a slide of a hump out in 49 feet of water. These are spotted bass schooled up. These is what they look like on the fish reveal, and this is the mapping. This webinar can be viewed again at navionics.com. It'll be up in about 2 weeks. It'll also be on the Navionics YouTube channel. Just typing Navionics into YouTube, you will find it. And again, I apologize that it took me a while to realize that I was not sharing the screen. Let me go through all of these screens one more time. This is what when I'm preparing to go to a lake. I have a job like most of you all. I will use this fishing ranges on my phone app and then begin to put waypoints in that I can either sync with my unit or find by using the phone app when I'm out in the water on my boat, because it's using satellite. It's not using cellular. This is a screenshot from the spot that I was catching those fish on. What do you do differently while fishing deep for largemouths compared to spots? Robert, absolutely nothing. When I was fishing this spot, I was catching largemouth. So the spots and largemouths will bite the same baits. It's just a matter of most of the lakes I fish in Southern California only have largemouth, and most of the lakes that I fish in Northern California have spotted bass and largemouths. And depending on the lake, they live together. So like when I go to Shasta next week, I've never caught a largemouth out of Shasta. Whereas I fished New Melones, and the first time I caught 10 largemouth, and they were in the same spots as the spotted bass. It just depends on the lake, but I'm using the same kind of techniques, same baits. Any other questions, guys? Are the spots usually suspended compared to largemouths? Absolutely not. Matter of fact, again, let's show you some spots that are not suspended. Come on. I'm trying to find one picture that shows you very good. Spotted bass do suspend, but so do largemouth. There it is right there. Right. So these fish are on the bottom. I mean, you can see they're very close to the bottom. For me, when they're very close to the bottom, those are catchable fish. I get excited when I pulled up on the spot, any spot, largemouth, spotted bass, smallmouth. When they're that close to the bottom, you're normally going to catch them. When they're up in that water column, like, let me show you one that's up in the water column. When they're up in the water column like this, that fish is going to be very hard to bite unless he bites on the fall. That fish, actually, I caught that fish. This one is going to be very hard to catch. That one on the bottom, you can put a bait right in front of that fish, either dropping it vertically or making a cast to it. Any other questions? How heavy is your drop shot? And traditionally, I'm either going to use a 3/8 or a 1/4 ounce drop shot in 40 plus feet. And I would say 90% of the time, I'm going to use a 3/8 if I'm dropping vertically. If I am casting, then I'm going to pretty much use a 1/4 ounce drop shot. Any other questions? Again, this is a great shot at what a fish looks like in a 2D part. You know, Bill, I don't know how long it takes to get down there. You're using 6-pound test, so it has a very thin diameter. It'll get to the bottom pretty quickly. The key is just keeping your fish finder and your trolling motor on the fish and being able to see that fish underneath the boat. I didn't show any screenshots, but on my units, they're set up where I can actually see the bait being dropped down. It was kind of hard to get a picture and catch fish at the same time. Any other questions? And again, everybody can see these shots now, I hope. Well, hearing no questions, folks, this webinar is being recorded. It will be available online. in about 2 weeks or so. You should get an email. Let me give you my contact information. If you want to shoot me an email, I love to talk fishing. I love to answer questions. I appreciate you all sticking with me through my technical difficulties. You all have been great. My email address is rshabazz@navionics.com. Best drop shot colors in general would be light colors. When it's light outside, dark, I use the green pumpkins, green pumpkin candy. John, downscan the 2D sonar seems you are seeing more on the 2D instead of downscan. John, I would absolutely disagree with you. Let me go back. I'm actually seeing more on the down scan, particularly because of the coloration. And let me go to a better picture of structure. Look, I can't tell, John, what this is on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, I can tell that those are bushes and rocks. Let me go to another one. The Lake Pleasant picture, I think, is a better example here, right? Traditional 2D sonar, I don't know what that is. That could be rock pile, that could be trees. I go to the down scan and I see that's a rock pile with trees on it. Hopefully that answers your question, John. Look, folks, I'm going to cut it off. You guys got my email. Let me go back real quick to the email address. Again, I appreciate you all sticking with me. If there are questions, shoot me an email at rshabazz@navionics.com. Good luck to you out there. Happy fishing. See you on the water.